A reading from the Acts of the Apostles. Many signs and wonders were done among the people at the hands of the apostles. They were all together in Solomon's portico. None of the others dared to join them, but the people esteemed them. Yet, more than ever, believers in the Lord, great numbers of men and women were added to them. Thus, they even carried the sick into the streets and laid them on cots and mats, so that when Peter came by, at least his shadow might fall on one or another of them. A large number of people from the towns in the vicinity of Jerusalem also gathered, bringing the sick and those disturbed by unclean spirits, and they were all cured. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
A reading from the book of Revelation. I, John, your brother, who share with you the distress, the kingdom, and the endurance we have in Jesus, found myself on the island called Patmos, because I proclaimed God's word and gave testimony to Jesus. I was caught up in spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a voice as loud as a trumpet, which said, "Write on a scroll what you see." Then I turned to see whose voice it was that spoke to me. And when I turned, I saw 7 gold lampstands. and in the midst of the lampstands, one like a son of man, wearing an ankle-length robe with a gold sash around his chest. When I caught sight of him, I fell down at his feet as though dead. He touched me with his right hand and said, "Do not be afraid. I am the first and the last, the one who lives. Once I was dead, but now I am alive forever and ever. I hold the keys to death and the netherworld. Write down, therefore, what you have seen and what is happening and what will happen afterwards." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
My brothers and sisters, the Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. On the evening of the first day of the week, when the doors were locked where the disciples were for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood in their midst and said to them, "Peace be with you." When he had said this, he showed them his hands and his side. The disciples rejoiced when they saw the Lord. Jesus said to them again, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I send you." And when he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, "Receive the Holy Spirit. Whose sins you forgive are forgiven them, and whose sins you retain are retained." Thomas, called Didymus, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples said to him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands, and put my finger into his nail marks, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." Now, a week later, his disciples were again inside, and Thomas was with them. Jesus came, though the doors were locked, and stood in their midst and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and bring your hand and put it into my side, and do not be unbelieving, but believe." Thomas answered and said to him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "You have come to believe because you have seen me. Blessed are those who have not seen and have believed." Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples that are not written in this book, but these are written that you may come to believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that through this belief you may have life in his name. The Gospel of the Lord.
Good morning. I think one of the most frustrating phrases for kids is "because I said so." Right? I don't know how many of you have heard that from your parents or how many of you parents have used that with your kids, but I finally understood why that phrase exists when I started working at the high school. Right? Because eventually you got this kid who just won't stop, and at the high school it wasn't because I said so, it's because Jesus, right? That was just like, leave me alone now, right? And I was thinking about that phrase, because I said so, thinking about Thomas here in our gospel, right? Thomas is the one who just won't let it go. And what's funny is that I think Thomas gets a bad rap. Because of this particular story, we've got that phrase in English vernacular, right? The doubting Thomas. And that's, I don't think, very fair, right? A week ago, when Mary Magdalene came to all of the 12, they all didn't believe, right? They're all the doubters, right? And if we're taking one particular instance, we should call him denying Peter, right? I don't think it's quite fair that we call him doubting Thomas just because of this particular story. And again, I was thinking about that because I said so phrase as Thomas wrestles with what he knows. He was there in the garden. He saw the mob arrest the Lord and take him away. And while he perhaps wasn't at the foot of the cross during the crucifixion, he certainly watched the trial from afar and watched the Lord die from afar. It's not unreasonable for Thomas, I don't think, to say, look, unless I see the man myself, unless I can put my finger in the nail marks and put my hand in his side, I can't just take your word for it. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing, right? And we have this gospel given to us today, right, which is Divine Mercy Sunday. If you don't know the image of Divine Mercy, it's this one up here. If you're on the sides, you maybe can't see it as well, but maybe you're familiar with it anyway. This beautiful image that if you're curious about, I wrote a little bit about it in my bulletin article, so make sure to check out my bulletin article. It's, right? Focus, Father Paul, okay. Yes. This image of Divine Mercy that we're celebrating today, this Divine Mercy, I don't think it's an accident that it's this weekend and this particular gospel. Because on first glance, it seems like maybe there should be some other day that's named for Divine Mercy, right? Maybe Good Friday, we should rename it Divine Mercy Friday, or Easter Sunday, the other name for it should be Divine Mercy Sunday, or heck, maybe even Christmas, right? That's like that showing of divine mercy, maybe. But I don't think it's an accident that it's today. Right, because you think about those big feasts, you think about Christmas and Easter and the Triduum leading up to Easter, the intensity and beauty of those days. And I think it's really easy, perhaps this weekend, to forget that Lent ever existed. And now maybe we just go back to life as normal. Right? We had Lent and that was kind of hard. We had Easter and that was really great, but now it's over. And maybe I just go back. And that's what I think the church in her wisdom gives us today, this reading and this feast of divine mercy. Because if you look at that image, right, that image is almost exactly what Thomas was looking for, right? There's this void. If you look at this image, Jesus is coming out of the black, out of the darkness, and all of a sudden here he is, and his heart is open, and there's the red and the white, the blood and the water flowing from his open heart, and he showers out upon us divine mercy to let us know that it's not just these big feast days where we can experience his mercy. It's not just these big days where he's willing to come and lavish his gifts and his graces and his blessings upon us. But maybe it's in those days where we feel like we're in the darkness. where it seems like we're shouting our prayers into a nameless void. On those days maybe like today, when everything's starting to kind of fade back into normal, that the Lord wants us to know that he comes today to show us his divine mercy, just like he comes to Thomas. What I love about this gospel passage, and why I think it's perfectly wedded, it's married to this day of divine mercy, is that the Lord honors Thomas's doubt. The Lord doesn't just leave Thomas by himself and say, listen, if you're not going to believe the testimony of these guys, you're on your own. The Lord comes and he says to Thomas, put your finger here, put your hand in my side. Do not be unbelieving, but believe. Right? And if we're going to give Thomas a nickname, right, Thomas is the first person ever to say to Jesus to his face, my Lord and my God. Brothers and sisters, Christianity is not a second-hand religion. It's not something that I have to hear about from somebody else and hope that their testimony is strong enough to give me faith. It's not what Christianity is. Christianity is a first-hand religion because Jesus is alive. And he still comes out of the black. He still comes out of the void to show us who he is and give us a lived experience of him in his resurrected life and glory. In fact, that's what every Eucharist is. Put your hands here. Do not be unbelieving, but believe. Today, on this Divine Mercy Sunday, with the heart of Christ open to us, pouring out that divine mercy, that divine strength, that divine love, that divine peace, that divine faith, let's ask the Lord to increase in us mercy and peace and love and faith, knowing that he comes to us really. It's not just a nice theory. It's not just a good sounding idea and, oh, wouldn't it be nice if. But today it's not just because I said so. Today Jesus proves how far his mercy goes, because he comes to be with us here in this Eucharist that we celebrate, this Eucharist that we share, this Eucharist that we sacrifice. And so let's ask for a deepening of those graces. Let's ask for the Lord to really give us that encounter with him in his resurrected life and glory, so that this day we don't just have to go back and pretend like all of these other things just didn't really exist or have any meaning or purpose or point. But that today divine mercy can be instilled within us, change our hearts, and help us to encounter and receive the living Lord.